Asha. Then Sudana, uplifted by the virtues of the spiritual benefactor, sent forth by the spiritual benefactor, having gained access to the vision of the spiritual benefactor, putting the instructions of the spiritual benefactor into practice, remembering the words of the spiritual benefactor, kindly disposed towards spiritual benefactors, seeing spiritual benefactors as minds of the vision of Buddhas, seeing spiritual benefactors as those who show the teachings of Buddhas, seeing spiritual benefactors as teachers of the elements of omniscience, seeing spiritual benefactors as eyes to see the sky of Buddhahood, gradually made his way to Samantavyuha Park in Samudravatadan. He saw the park surrounded by fences made of all kinds of jewels, in the midst of rows of all kinds of jewel trees, adorned throughout with beautiful, delicate flowers like sets of all kinds of jewels releasing pollen, adorned by all kinds of jewel trees, strewn with the various blossoms of the flowers of all kinds of jewel trees, with rows of trees of all kinds of fragrances giving off their scents in all directions, trees of garlands of all jewels with their flower buds bursting forth, streaming a rain of garlands of various jewels. The ground beautifully spread with various decorations made of jewels from trees of all kinds of diamonds. The area well distributed with cloths of various colors hanging down from trees of flowers of various forms, with trees of all kinds of musical instruments making beautiful sounds surpassing the heavens when stirred by the wind, the ground level throughout, neither high nor low, adorned with various trailing streamers of ornaments welling forth from the flower buds of trees of all ornaments. In the park, furthermore, were 10,000 arrays of turrets adorned with all kinds of precious jewels, extremely pure, 10,000 towers covered with gold, 10,000 mansions adorned with radiant jewels, 10,000 lotus ponds made of all kinds of jewels, inlaid with jewel bricks, with varied stairways made of 7 precious substances, surrounded by benches made of various gems, fragrant as pools of water scented with celestial sandalwood, the bottoms covered with golden sand, spread with 10 layers of pure gold and jewels, stairways set on 4 sides, filled with water of 8 qualities, vibrant with the beautiful sounds of the calls of various birds, surrounded by rows of jewel palms, covered by nets of gold bells chiming sweetly when stirred by the wind, with canopies of great jewels above, surrounded by enclosures of trees of various jewels, with banners and streamers flying from jewel nets. There were also 10,000 pools, lined with sandalwood clay, covered with lotuses of various colors made of all kinds of jewels, with pure water shining with lotuses of huge gems. In the middle of the park was a large mansion called Multicolored Banner standing on a ground of jewels, adorned with pillars of sapphire, roofed with gold, surfaced with arrays of world-illumining jewels, its base blazing with webs of countless jewels, graced by the scent of unsurpassed jewels of fragrance, perfumed by jewels of compounded fragrances, filled with jewels of awakening fragrance, extinguishing the heat of the senses. In that mansion were arranged infinite seats, the calyxes of lotuses, luminous jewel lotuses, radiant jewel lotuses, world-illumining jewel lotuses, lotuses of various treasures, lotuses of pure jewels, lotuses inlaid with jewels, lotuses of omnifaceted jewels, lotuses of jewels with auras of light, lotuses of jewels shining with the radiant lights of arrays of pure jewels of the ocean, jewel lotuses covered with diamond lions. The many turrets of the mansion were made of inconceivably many jewels, arrayed with varicolored jewels, their forms resplendent with light of inconceivably many colors. The park was also covered above by 10,000 canopies, such as canopies of cloth, canopies of plant tendrils, canopies of flowers, canopies of garlands, canopies of fragrances, canopies of jewels, golden canopies, canopies of jewels glittering like diamonds, canopies of nymphs magically produced by the chief of the water spirits, canopies of jewels prized by the king of gods. It was also covered by 100,000 precious nets, such as nets of bells with jewels inside, nets of jeweled streamers, nets of jewel figures, nets of pearls, nets of sapphires, nets of moon-like jewels, nets emanating fragrance, nets of jeweled crowns. It was also illumined by 100,000 great lights, such as starlight jewel light, sun-filled jewel light, moon-like jewel light, scenting flame jewel light, luster-filled jewel light, lotus calyx jewel light, starry jewel light, great blazing jewel light, radiant jewel light, and the light of jewels like wreaths of lightning emitting great clouds of fragrance. The park was also adorned by rain from 100,000 great clouds of ornaments. 100,000 sandalwood-scented clouds thundered. It was adorned by 100,000 trailing clouds of garlands surpassing those in the heavens. 100,000 clouds of varicolored cloths surpassing the celestials reigned. It was adorned by 100,000 clouds of ornaments surpassing those of the heavens. It was showered by 100,000 celestial beings bowing their heads to see. It was showered by 100,000 clouds of nymphs producing beings of their own kind who did the same things in the past with bodies like their own. It was showered by 100,000 clouds of enlightening beings who had come to hear the teaching. Innumerable living beings in all states of existence came from the 10 directions to the laywoman Asha, who was seated on a golden throne, adorned with a net of pearls from the ocean, wearing a tiara, her wrists adorned with bracelets of gold more beautiful than that of the heavens, her arms resplendent with jewels of glorious light, wearing earrings of pure deep blue gems, her head adorned with a veil of all kinds of jewels, her neck draped with a string of wish-fulfilling jewels. Those who came to see her, affected with various sicknesses, filled with various afflictions, immersed in various views, covered by obstructions caused by actions, had their sicknesses alleviated when they saw Asha. Their minds freed from the defilement of afflictions, the thorns of views removed, the mountains of obstructions disintegrated. They entered the sphere of unobstructed purity, in which sphere of purity all their roots of goodness were clarified. The sprouts of spiritual faculties grew, and they entered the ocean of principles of omniscience. They recited the ocean of all mystic spells leading to mental command, came face to face with the ocean of all concentration media, began all holy vows, set all means of practice into operation, purified the means of accomplishing all virtues, proceeded according to wisdom characterized by all higher knowledges with unregressing breadth of mind, and became physically unattached and unobstructed, able to go everywhere. Then Sudana entered the park, looking all over till he saw Asha sitting there. He went up to her, paid his respects, and said, "Noble one, I have set my mind on supreme perfect enlightenment, but I do not know how to learn and carry out the practice of enlightening beings. I hear you give instructions to enlightening beings, so please tell me how an enlightening being is to learn and carry out the practice of enlightening beings." She said, "I have attained an enlightening liberation called characterized by sorrowless well-being. It is definitely beneficial to see me, hear me, attend me, live with me, remember me. I am not visible to those who have not developed the bases of goodness. who are not under the tutelage of spiritual benefactors, who are not in the care of the perfect Buddhas. Those who see me thereupon become irreversible in progress towards supreme perfect enlightenment. Furthermore, the Buddhas of the 10 directions come here and sit on this jewel seat and expound the truth to me. I am always seeing Buddhas, hearing the truth, and meeting enlightening beings. The 84,000 quadrillion beings who live here in this park are all irreversible in progress towards supreme perfect enlightenment, having performed the same practices as I have. Any others who live here too will all be irreversible in progress towards supreme perfect enlightenment, as enlightening beings of the same practice as I who have entered the community of those who cannot regress. Sudana said, Noble one, how long ago did you set your mind on supreme perfect enlightenment? She said, I remember a past state when I cultivated religious practice in the company of the Buddha known as the Lamp, whom I served and from whom I received teaching. Before that was a Buddha named Undefiled. I went forth from society into the tutelage of that Buddha and held the wheel of teaching of that Buddha. Before that was a Buddha named Star. I propitiated that Buddha. Before that was a Buddha named Splendor of the Polar Mountain. Before that was a Buddha named Lotus Calyx. Before that was a Buddha named Illuminating. Before that was a Buddha named Universal Eye. Before that was a Buddha named Purified by Spiritual Knowledge. Before that was a Buddha named Diamond Navel. Before that was a Buddha named Deifying the Universe. Remembering back in this way lifetime to lifetime, age to age, as successive Buddhas appeared in the world, I remember as many Buddhas as grains of sand in 36 Ganges rivers, whom I propitiated, attended, served, and honored, from whom I heard spiritual teaching, under whose tutelage I carried out spiritual practice. Beyond this, only the Buddhas know how many Buddhas I propitiated. Enlightening beings are infinite because of the aspiration of enlightenment, because of pervading all universes. Enlightening beings are infinite because of the guidance of great compassion, because of entry into the midst of all beings. Enlightening beings are infinite because their great vows go to the end of all universes. Enlightening beings are infinite because of great love, because of suffusing all beings with love. Enlightening beings are infinite because of the practice of enlightening beings, because of entering into all ages and all lands. Enlightening beings are infinite because of the power of concentration, because of not regressing on the path of enlightening beings. Enlightening beings are infinite because of the power of mental command, because of attainment of the method of mystic spells able to hold the memory of truths for all beings. Enlightening beings are infinite because of the power of the light of knowledge, because of retaining the realization of the knowledge and wisdom of past, present, and future. Enlightening beings are infinite because of the power of mystic knowledge, because of ability to produce wheels of nets of light, pleasing beings according to their mentalities. Enlightening beings are infinite because of the power of intelligence, because of satisfying all beings with one utterance. Enlightening beings are infinite because of purity of body, because of pervading all Buddha fields with their own body. Sudana said, Noble one, when will you realize supreme perfect enlightenment? Asha said, Enlightening beings do not aspire to enlightenment with the object of leading just one sentient being to perfection, nor for the sake of 100, or 1,000, or 1,000,000, or 1,000,000,000 sentient beings, nor for any number of beings, nor for all the sentient beings in as many worlds as atoms in untold, inexpressibly vast numbers of billion-world universes. Enlightening beings aspire to enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings in all worlds to lead them to perfection. Enlightening beings do not aspire to enlightenment to propitiate, honor, and attend one Buddha, or even as many Buddhas as atoms in untold worlds, or to propitiate, honor, and attend the lineage of Buddhas in one world, or the lineage of Buddhas in as many worlds as atoms in untold Buddha fields. Enlightening beings do not aspire to enlightenment to purify one Buddha land, or even to purify as many Buddha lands as atoms in untold, inexpressible numbers of worlds. Enlightening beings do not aspire to enlightenment to preserve the teaching of one Buddha, or even to preserve the teachings of as many Buddhas as atoms in untold, inexpressible numbers of worlds. Enlightening beings do not aspire to enlightenment to enter into the diversity of vows which are the point of departure of one Buddha, nor even to enter into the diversity of vows which are the points of departure of as many Buddhas as atoms in untold, inexpressible numbers of Buddha fields. Enlightening beings do not aspire to enlightenment to enter into the array of the Buddha field of one Buddha, nor even to enter into the arrays of Buddha fields of as many Buddhas as atoms in untold, inexpressible numbers of Buddha fields. Enlightening beings do not aspire to enlightenment to take part in the assembly of one Buddha, nor even to take part in the assemblies of as many Buddhas as atoms in untold, inexpressible numbers of Buddha fields. Enlightening beings do not aspire to enlightenment to preserve the wheel of teaching of one Buddha, nor to preserve the wheels of teaching of even as many Buddhas as atoms in untold, inexpressible numbers of Buddha fields. Enlightening beings do not aspire to enlightenment to penetrate the ocean of mind of one sentient being, nor to penetrate the oceans of mind of even as many sentient beings as atoms in untold, inexpressible numbers of Buddha fields. Enlightening beings do not aspire to enlightenment to know the sphere of faculties of one sentient being, nor to know the faculties of even as many sentient beings as atoms in untold, inexpressible numbers of Buddha fields. Enlightening beings do not aspire to enlightenment to know the sphere of faculties of one sentient being, nor to know the faculties of even as many sentient beings as atoms in untold, inexpressible numbers of Buddha fields. Enlightening beings do not aspire to enlightenment to penetrate the ocean of faculties of one sentient being, nor to penetrate the oceans of faculties of even as many sentient beings as atoms in untold, inexpressible numbers of Buddha fields. Enlightening beings do not aspire to enlightenment to enter into the succession of ages in one world, nor to enter into the succession of ages in even as many worlds as atoms in untold, inexpressible numbers of Buddha fields. Enlightening beings do not aspire to enlightenment to comprehend the continuity of actions and habits of the sentient beings in one world, nor to comprehend the continuity of actions and habits of the sentient beings even in as many worlds as atoms in untold, inexpressible numbers of Buddha fields. Enlightening beings do not aspire to enlightenment to comprehend the ocean of afflictions of sentient beings in one world, nor to comprehend the oceans of afflictions of the sentient beings even in as many worlds as atoms in untold, inexpressible numbers of Buddha fields. Enlightening beings do not aspire to enlightenment to comprehend the ocean of all actions of the beings in one world, nor even to comprehend the oceans of all actions of beings in as many worlds as atoms in untold, inexpressible numbers of Buddha fields. Enlightening beings do not aspire to enlightenment to comprehend the ocean of all modes of behavior of all beings in one world, nor even to comprehend the ocean of all modes of behavior of all beings in as many worlds as atoms in untold, inexpressible numbers of Buddha fields. Rather, enlightening beings aspire to enlightenment to lead all sentient beings without exception to full development. They wish to propitiate and honor and attend all Buddhas, to propitiate and honor and attend the successions of Buddhas in all worlds. They are determined to purify all Buddha lands. They strive to hold the teachings of all Buddhas. They are zealously devoted to following the variety of vows which are the points of departure of all Buddhas. They are determined to enter into the arrays of all Buddha lands. They wish to enter the oceans of assemblies of all Buddhas. They seek to go deeply into the ocean of mind of all sentient beings. They wish to know the spheres of faculties of all sentient beings. They aspire to penetrate the ocean of faculties of all sentient beings. They wish to enter into the succession of ages in all worlds. They are inspired with courage to cut off the continuity of afflictions and habit energies of all sentient beings. Their sun of knowledge rises to evaporate the ocean of afflictions caused by actions of all sentient beings. Their light of wisdom becomes manifest to know the ways of behavior of all sentient beings. Their cloud of great compassion gathers to extinguish the mass of fire of suffering of all sentient beings. To put it briefly, there are 100,000 incalculable numbers of such aspects of the conduct of the practice of enlightening beings, which are to be accomplished by an enlightening being. Furthermore, the practice of enlightening beings enters into all things, for the attainment of knowledge. The practice of enlightening beings enters into all lands to thoroughly purify them. Because of this vow of mine, when the purification of the realm of desire is finished, my commitments will be finished. When the purification of the world is finished, my commitments will be finished. When all sentient beings' propensities to continue afflictive habits are ended, my commitments will be ended. Sudana said, "What is the name of this liberation?" Asha said, "This liberation is called characterized by sorrowless well-being. I know this enlightening liberation, but how can I know the practice, tell of the virtues, convey the inconceivable enlightening skills, or show the infinite varieties of enlightening vows of the enlightening beings who have oceanic minds because of seeking all the Buddha teachings, who are like the polar mountain because of steadfast will, who are like the medicine good to see because they free all sentient beings from the sicknesses of afflictions, who are like the sun because they eliminate the darkness of ignorance of all sentient beings, whose minds are like the earth because they are a refuge for all sentient beings, who are like air because they benefit all sentient beings, who are lamps producing the light of knowledge for all sentient beings, who are like clouds raining truth with a quiet sound, who are like the moon because they radiate a web of light beams of virtue, who are like gods because they protect all sentient beings. Go south. There is a district in Samudra Vitalia called Nalayor, where a seer named Bhishmotara near Ghosha lives. Go ask him, and he will instruct you in the practice of enlightening beings." Then Sudana left Asha, after paying his respects, reflecting on the extreme rarity of enlightening beings, on how hard it is to get on good terms with spiritual benefactors, on how very difficult it is to get to meet people of truth, on how hard it is to attain the faculties of enlightening beings, how hard it is to attain the purity of intent of enlightening beings, how hard it is to find colleagues, how hard it is to focus the mind accurately on enlightenment, how hard it is to apply the teachings leading to the state of freedom from distress, how hard it is to find ways to develop invincible goodness of mind, and how hard it is to get to see ways to quickly develop omniscience. Bhishmotara Nirghosha. Then Sudana, his mind on the instruction of the enlightening being, his mind on the purification of the conduct of enlightening beings, his mind developing the power of virtue of enlightening beings, his mind lit by the energy of the vision of Buddha, with mental energy arising from receiving a treasury of teaching, his mental energy increased by the undertaking of great vows, all things apparent to his mind aware of the intrinsic essence of things, his mind free from all obstructions, his mind viewing the reality realm without obscurity, his pure will indestructible, his mind invulnerable and immune to the power of all demons, gradually made his way to Nalayor, and sought out the seer Bhishmotara near Ghosha. At that time Bhishmotara near Ghosha was sojourning in a retreat, a pleasant place with countless diverse trees and plants, shaded by the leaves of various trees, with flowering trees perpetually blooming in various colors, and fruit trees perpetually bearing. The ground made of the finest jewel fruits from various jewel trees, well distributed with great sandalwood trees, graced with fragrance constantly coming from pleasant aloes wood trees, adorned with trumpet flower trees distributed in the 4 directions, with beautifully formed fig trees, with perpetually ripe fruits raining from rose apple trees, beautified by freshwater lilies and lotus blossoms. Sudna saw the seer Bhishmotara near Ghosha wearing matted hair, sitting on a seat of bark, rags, fragrant grass, and antelope skin, on a layer of straw in a hut built at the foot of a sandalwood tree, surrounded by 10,000 seers. Seeing Bhishmotara near Ghosha, Sudna went up to him, and thinking he had found a true spiritual benefactor, looking upon spiritual benefactors as the door to omniscience, because they guide one on the true path, looking upon omniscience as coming from the teaching of spiritual benefactors, because they lead to the stage of all knowledge, looking upon omniscience as coming from the guidance of spiritual benefactors, because they lead to the jewel land of the knowledge of the 10 powers, looking upon omniscience as illumined by the torch of spiritual benefactors, because they produce the light of knowledge of the 10 powers, looking upon spiritual benefactors as the path to omniscience leading unbroken to the city of omniscience, looking upon spiritual benefactors as lamps on the way to omniscience, because they show the level and the uneven, looking upon spiritual benefactors as a bridge to omniscience, because the peril of falling is eliminated, looking upon spiritual benefactors as parasols of omniscience, because they produce coolness by the power of great love, looking upon spiritual benefactors as streams of omniscience, because they give rise to great compassion, looking upon the satisfaction of the vision of omniscience as coming from spiritual benefactors, because they illumine the principle of the inherent nature of phenomena. Sudna paid his respects to the seer and said, "Noble one, I have set my mind on supreme perfect enlightenment, but I do not know how an enlightening being is to learn and carry out the practice of enlightening beings. I have heard you give enlightening beings instruction. Please tell me how an enlightening being is to learn and carry out the practice of enlightening beings." The seer Bhishmotara near Ghosha looked at the 10,000 people surrounding him and said, "This youth has set his mind on supreme perfect enlightenment and has invited all sentient beings to fearlessness. He is aiming for the welfare and happiness of all beings. He is facing the ocean of knowledge. He wants to spread the clouds of teaching of all Buddhas. He wants to plunge into the ocean of all principles of the teaching. He wants to live by the light of knowledge. He wants to bring the cloud of great compassion near. He wants to cause the rain of the great teaching to shower. He wants to have the moon of great knowledge rise in the world and extinguish the burning of all afflictions. He wants to develop the roots of goodness of all sentient beings." Then those 10,000 people scattered beautiful, fragrant flowers over Sudna, bowed to him, and circled him in respect, and said, "This person will be a savior. He will extinguish all the hellish torments of all beings. He will stop all brutish ways. He will get rid of the ways of the underworld. He will shut the door of all conditions inopportune for enlightenment. He will evaporate the ocean of craving. He will sever the bonds of craving. He will remove the mass of suffering. He will dispel the darkness of ignorance. He will surround the world with mountains of virtue. He will reveal the mine of jewels of knowledge. He will cause the sun of knowledge to rise. He will clarify the eye of truth. He will show what is good and bad in the world." Then the seer Bhishmotara near Ghosha said to those people, Whoever aspires to supreme perfect enlightenment promotes the happiness of all sentient beings, carrying out the practice of enlightening beings, and will eventually attain omniscience. This youth has set his heart on supreme perfect enlightenment. He will fulfill the stage of complete Buddhahood. Then the seer said to Sudna, I have attained an enlightening liberation called Unsurpassed Banner. Sudna said, What is the scope of this liberation? Bhishmotara Nirghosha stretched forth his right hand and rubbed Sudna's head, then took Sudna by the right hand. At that moment Sudna saw in the 10 directions as many Buddhalands as atoms in 10,100,000 Buddhalands, and in them he perceived himself at the feet of as many Buddhas as atoms in 10,100,000 Buddhalands. He also saw the innumerable features and the pure adornments of those Buddhalands, and he saw the various arrays of the oceans of audiences surrounding the Buddhas therein. He also saw the radiant mass of the marks and embellishments of the Buddha's bodies in the midst of the congregations. He also heard teaching from the Buddhas without missing a single word, and he remembered the cycles of teaching of those Buddhas in order without confusion, and he received the rain of those clouds of teaching as they showered on beings of various mentalities. He also entered the oceans of past vows of those Buddhas, purified by zealous application of various kinds. He also entered oceans of past attainments of the Buddhas, purified by oceans of various vows. He also saw the forms of Buddhas manifested so as to please all sentient beings according to their mentalities. He also saw the nets of light rays of the Buddhas, their various cool, pure halos. He also entered into those Buddhas' powers by following the light of unobstructed knowledge. He seems to be with one Buddha for a day and a night, with another for 7 days and nights, another for a fortnight, another for a month, another for a year, another for a century, another for a millennium, another for 100 millennia, another for 1,000,000 years, another for 100 million years, another for 1,000,000,000 years, another for 100 billion years, another for 1,000,000,000,000 years, another for half an eon, another for an eon, another for 100 eons, another for 1,000 eons, another for 100,000 eons, another for 1,000,000 eons, another for 100 million eons, another for 1,000,000,000 eons, another for 100 billion eons, another for 1,000,000,000,000 eons, up to untold inexpressible numbers of eons, or as many eons as atoms in the continent, or as many eons as atoms in untold Buddhalands. Thus did he perceive himself with the Buddhas, illumined by the light of knowledge of the liberation unsurpassed banner, imbued with the light of the concentration filled with sun-like radiance, reaching absorption and liberation of endless knowledge, imbued with the light of the mystic formulation of the structure of the universe, his mind illumined by the mystic formulation of the indestructible sphere, abiding in absorption in the realm of well-ordered bodies of knowledge, intent on the state of transcendent wisdom of the path of adornment of all planes, illumined by the light of concentration on the sphere containing the space of the enlightened, his mind illuminated by concentration on the circumference of the wheel of teaching of all Buddhas, imbued with the light of absorption in the inexhaustible sphere of jewels of knowledge of past, present, and future. Then the seer let go of Sudna, who found himself once again standing before the seer Bhishmotara Nirghosha. The seer said, "Do you remember?" Sudna said, "I remember, noble one, by the empowerment of the spiritual benefactor." Bhishmotara Nirghosha said, "I know this enlightening liberation known as the unsurpassed invincible banner, but how can I know the practice, or tell the virtues, or accurately express the excellence of vows, or know the structure of the lands, or plunge into the sphere of knowledge, or enter into the realm of concentration, or attain the mystic powers, or attain to the freedom of liberation, or take up the various physical manifestations, or reveal the purity of voice, or show the light of knowledge of the enlightening beings who have attained absorption in the mystic knowledge supreme among all creatures, who are masters of all wheels of time, who are skilled in achievement of the knowledge of the characteristics of Buddhas, who are supernal manifestations of the incarnation of the Buddhas, who have comprehended the knowledge of all objects of past, present, and future as of one characteristic, whose bodies are distributed throughout all worlds, who are embodiments of knowledge in which all realms of reality are revealed, who appear to all sentient beings according to their inclinations, who benefit sentient beings according to their ways of thought and action, who glow with a brightness that illumines everywhere, who have purified the sphere of pure, vast, radiant knowledge. Go south to a land called Ishana, where there lives a priest named Jayoshmayatana. Go ask him how an enlightening being is to learn and apply the practice of enlightening beings. Then Sudna, pleased, uplifted, transported, overjoyed, happy, paid respects to the seer Bhishmotara near Ghosha and departed, looking back at him again and again.